He's an iconic lawyer and judge who helped change the course of history in North Texas. I often refer to him as our Thurgood Marshall. As a civil rights attorney, he helped and fought hard to integrate Mansfield High School and the Fort Worth School District. And as a judge, his temperament on the bench and his incredible fairness with justice is legendary. And even though he's over 90 years old, he's still practicing law right here in this building. So now let's meet the great Judge L.Clifford Davis. Judge, thank you.
Thank you. How are you today?
Very good, sir. Well, let's just start at the beginning. I mean, you were born in Arkansas.
Yes, I was born in a small community 25 miles across the line at Texarkana. It's Little River County, Arkansas. The great metropolitan area of Wilton, Arkansas. 25 miles north of Texarkana. My father was a farmer, so that I was born on a farming community and worked on the farm with my father and my brothers and sisters. I was the last of 7 children. There were 5 boys and 2 girls, and we all grew up in that community.
And where did you go to school? Did you go to school in the town where you were born? Did you have to go somewhere?
They had the 8th grade, up to 8th grade at Wilton, and then they had what's called the Little River County Training School in Ashdown, which is 5 miles away. But in those days, we're talking about the late 30s, mid 30s, there was no public transportation. We didn't have a car. And the school board did not provide transportation for black people to go down there. But one man in the community had a car, and he had 3 daughters who were high school age, and he would try to let them go down there. So I went down there 1 year. My father and mother believed so strongly in education that they ultimately rented a home in Little Rock so that we could go up there and go to Dunbar High School, which was the finest school for blacks in the state of Arkansas. And 6 of the 7 children went up there to finish high school.
Wow, and that school was around until they integrated Little Rock, I guess.
Oh, yes, yes.
Until after,
yes.
In 1957.
Yes, it's no longer a high school now, but it's still operating as a junior high school.
Yes. Now, what got you, before we talked about college, what got you interested in the law?
Well, when I was in my hometown of Wilton, years ago, there was a lawyer in Arkansas named Scipio A. Jones. He had become famous because he represented some men who were charged in the so-called Elaine riots. It was a great disturbance where a lot of blacks were injured and killed over in eastern Arkansas, and he represented some of the fellows who were there. And he came through our community speaking, and then when I got to Little Rock, I got to know where he lived and to see him and read about him, and that inspired me to want to become a lawyer, Scipio A. Jones.
As I recall, he represented like 12 of those
people in that Elaine riot. I don't remember exactly how many, but he represented them.
Right.
Yes.
Now, so you went to Philander Smith College.
Yes.
Had you already decided on law by the time you got to Philander Smith?
Kind of, yes. But also, while I was at Philander, one of the instructors on the staff, not on the staff, but he taught in the business department on an adjunct position, was Mr. Booker. Mr. Booker was a lawyer, so that I had that close contact with a lawyer during my college days. And then, in addition to that, in the mid-40s, the lady who was my homeroom teacher at Dunbar High School was a plaintiff in the suit, the equalization of salaries for teachers in Little Rock. And Thurgood Marshall came down with Mr. Booker to try that case, and I got to go down and sit in court and watch that, and of course that was inspiring.
Judge, you were saying that you actually chose Texas because you wanted to live in a larger community. Why Fort Worth?
Well, at that time, the only person practicing in Fort Worth was a gentleman of very advanced age, Mr. Hatton. And I wanted to come to Fort Worth.
What was his name again?
had Mr. H.W. Hatton.
Haddon.
Mr. Haddon had been around here for a long time, but he practiced out of his home, as I understand it. And he had gotten to be a member of the bar at a time when you could read law in somebody's law office, take correspondence course, something like that. And if you could take the bar, you could pass and you could practice. So I understand he got admitted under those circumstances. But the summer of '53, I came and looked around. I was teaching at Paul Quinn, but it was off for the summer, so I came and looked around and elected to come to Fort Worth to practice. But in the spring of '54, two lawyers from Dallas, Mr. C.B. Bunkley and Mr. L.A. Bedford, both of whom had solo practices in Dallas, opened an office here and hired a secretary. And I was introduced to them by Tony Davis, who knew both of them and who I had met in connection with work at Paul Quinn. And he introduced me to them, and they wanted me to come and be their resident counsel in their office. So I came here in June of 1954, 6 months and 3 days.
Well, you know, a lot of people don't realize that a year before Little Rock was in 1957 when the integration of Central High School, there was a high school here in Mansfield, Texas, where 3 students tried to integrate, and you got involved in that case.
Well, let me say this to you. The students from Mansfield could go through the 8th grade, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And if they wanted to go farther than that, they had to get to Fort Worth. And they had to ride a trailway bus. So they'd have to walk from where they lived out in the community to get downtown to catch the trailway bus. It'd drop them off downtown, and they'd have to get over to Terrell. Terrell at that time was the only high school in the county for black people. And the parents down there wanted the school board and requested the school board to provide them public transportation, a bus for transportation, so it could pick them up in the community and then bring them and deliver them at the school, because they'd have to get off at the bus station and get to over to Terrell either by city transportation or walk through that railroad track. That was one of the big issues. There were several other issues. Among them was the fact that the elementary school was along the main road that leads up into the community, and the kids had recess, and kids out there playing, you could run out on the road and could get hit for a car, and they asked them to put some kind of little barrier there. And the school board refused to do any of those things. There were 2 or 3 other little things. And the school board refused to do them, and that's when they came to me. And by that time, the '54 decision was out, so I filed a suit to integrate the school.
Now, I can remember, Judge, I mean, you were an instant hit because of just your temperament, how people thought you administered justice. What was your, what did you do? I mean, what was so unique about what you did as a judge?
Let me just say, and I don't want anybody to feel that I'm bragging.
But brag, you can, hey.
When I went down there,
it ain't bragging if it's fact.
I had a pretty good practice, successful practice as far as I'm concerned, and I owned the building and it was paid for. So I went down there and said, I'm gonna do what I feel is right, because I don't have to stay down here. I can go back. All I've got to do is get my key and go back and open that door and open up my practice, and I'll be making a living like I have been doing. So that I committed myself to do what I thought was right. As a matter of fact, I made a pledge to myself that I'm gonna leave here every day smoking my cigar. And when I'm smoking my cigar, it means I'm at peace with the world. Wow. And I was smoking a cigar in those days, and I left there every day smoking my cigar. And I did in every instance what I felt was right. And of the 22 years that I was on the bench, I never asked a defense lawyer or prosecutor whether or not they agreed with my rulings. I did what I felt was the proper thing to do, and I was totally comfortable doing that.
And I think that's why you have the respect. And did you create a special court too for?
Well, yes, and I mentioned that's one of the proudest achievements of my career. I started what we called the drug diversion court, called the rec court, the drug diversion court for people who were consumers of drugs and got involved. We've been sending people to the pen for having one marijuana cigarette and filling up the penitentiary. Well, we felt that we need to try to help those people. They danced off the line. We need to try to help them get back on the line since they had not committed a serious criminal offense. So we started the first diversion court in Tarrant County, which was a drug diversion court. In the late 90s, it was the third such court in the state of Texas. You had one in Austin. The first one was in the Beaumont-Port Arthur area, and the second one was in Austin, and this was the third one. Now I understand there are about 8 or 10 diversion courts in this county, but I looked upon that as the criminal justice system trying to help people live the lifestyle that was consistent with good living as a community person.
Still coming. I mean, just last year, I think, you got a Legends Award, I think, from Texas Lawyer. You got the Tarrant County Bar Association Award. You got all kinds of awards, but you also have a school named for you.
Yes, there's a school, the L.Clifford Elementary School, and let me tell you, I have an art piece that I had drawn. I paid the artist to draw, and it carries a theme that I like for those children over there and like for all children to understand. Education, the pathway to a world of opportunities. And this art piece, you got up here is the map of the world, and down here is a school, and there's a little path that leads from the school up to this world of opportunity. And you got kids going up there, going uphill. Right. And one back here's got a knapsack, the other's got something, a book in his hand, and the third one's got a diploma, and they're headed toward that. And that's the theme that I wish we could get a lot of people to talk about. The more education you have, the more opportunity you have.
And you visit that school, too.
I visit generally at least once a month to greet the children.
I mean, that's an amazing. These kids get a chance to see the legend for whom their school is named.
Yes, I go over there regularly. At least six months during the school year. At least 6 times during the school year in the morning, so I can greet them as they come in and get hugs. And they used to call me Pawpaw Judge.
Oh, I love it. Judge, if you had to sum up your career in a couple of sentences, what would it be? Summing up.
I'm just an old man working, and if you have any talent at all, you ought to use it to try to make a better community, provide for the common defense, and promote the general welfare. That's, promote the general welfare is a part of the Declaration of Independence.
Yes, sir.
And I think of that all the time, that all of us, as a matter of fact, I have this statement. We've been talking all these years about civil rights, and I want us to continue to talk about civil rights. But there's another term that I want to hear conversation about, and that is civil responsibility. You have a responsibility to help make the society, general welfare, good. Everyone has that. You have a right to work, vote, get yourself a career, support other people, be supportive of the community, and be a positive force in the community. Everyone has that as a civil responsibility.
And you've been the perfect example for that.
Well, I try to live my commitments.
You do. Well, Judge, that's all I have. Thank you.